Good evening, dear friends. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend this evening with us. We are so very much appreciative of each of you and love you all so much. This is a very special week for all of us here on the RLI team. This week marks the release of God's vision for the RLI ministry. God's vision for us is vital. It's what propels us forward and causes us to rise higher in God. Without vision, we will stagnate and die. But when we come into agreement with what God has put into our hearts and walk in faith and obedience to Him, nothing is impossible. The Word says that God knows the plans that He has for us to prosper, to grow, and to take His kingdom of health, healing, and wholeness out into every state, every city, across this nation, and out into the world. I love what Linda Wood says just about every single conference. She says, everyone needs this ministry. And I think we all agree, because we all have experienced it and seen it. Years ago, before I was healed, God started giving me dreams that I didn't understand. The first significant one was a big cruise ship. It was an awesome cruise ship, and I ended up in this bathroom painting it. And then I suddenly was on deck, and it turned from a cruise ship with people having fun into a hospital ship with people on beds and people wandering around pulling their IVs. And I went up to a nurse and I said, "What happened? Where did all these people come from?" And she said, "They're all sick, they're all dying, and some of them have sleeping sickness," which immediately I thought, that's like malaria. They're in a daze, they're in a doze, and they all actually looked like they were in a stupor. And then I started having more dreams about big airplanes filled with people going to something big. Big steam engine trains filled with people from all over the world. And were getting on these trains, and we were all going to the same destination. Then there were buildings, so many dreams with buildings, inside and outside, filled with people, always studying, always eating and fellowshipping together, sitting in classrooms learning. The most significant dream I had was a big building, and it was on a huge campus. The building was several stories high, and the whole front of the building was amazing with glass. People were outside sitting around on picnic tables, talking and eating together. And inside, there were people everywhere, rooms everywhere. People were studying and learning, and in classrooms, and some were eating together. But everyone was, in every single dream, was doing the same thing. In this particular dream, a man was taking us on a tour, which now I know was probably an angel or maybe Holy Spirit. And when we would finish seeing the first few floors, he took us down this long hall on the second floor, and we stopped in front of two big silver doors. The silver, I now know, means redemption. He opened the doors, and as I looked down the hall, it just seemed like it never ended. It went on forever. And then he looked at Michael and me, and he said, "It's bigger than you can imagine." A few months later, I met a woman who took over Ruth Heflin's ministry. It was just an amazing divine appointment. And she started giving us this prophetic word. And all I remember that she said was, "This is bigger than you can imagine." So here it was twice in just a couple of months that God said the same thing to us. So obviously, He wanted to get our attention, but Michael and I had no idea what any of this meant. Then God started giving me scriptures about our calling, our destiny, going out and touching the nations, healing, blind eyes opening, and spiritual children that we would have that would go out and touch all nations. And one important thing was that there would be many, many children. And again, we had no clue what any of this meant, and I was sick. More prophetic words about teaching, ministry, building, TV, and radio. And we just tucked them away, waiting to see what God really wanted to do. Michael and I just would shake our heads. I mean, this was so not our life. But here we are, 8.5 years old. It's RLI. And as we look back at these dreams and words and scriptures, we are humbled by how much they have come to pass. Plus the words and the dreams since the birth of RLI. Many of you are familiar with Todd Bentley's word that was spoken over Michael 5 years ago about our inheritance, about a commissioning to teach and to minister healing, about buildings and a teaching center and a training center, all fitting into the dreams that were given to us years earlier. And then in February, an apostolic leader told us to get our foundation of the ministry strengthened, because in August, God was going to start to release that something big. All spring, this past spring, we kept hearing, this is bigger than you think. The same stuff we heard in those dreams, that God is also sending the big. So we started preparing ourselves. All of heaven knows what it is and our stages of growth. The Lord has told us in June that number 1, we're supposed to speak forth His vision. Speak it forth. Number 2, He said to call forth His vision. He said, call forth what is not into what is to be. Number 3, He said to declare His vision, the vision that He has put into our hearts and into our destiny, the power of the words that we have to create. And He keeps emphasizing how we're to declare, and that He's given all of us this anointed power to create what He has in store for us. Number 4, He's telling us that we're supposed to over and over again repeat the vision to each other, to people who don't know us, but to declare it and proclaim it and speak it. Just like the Israelites who were continuing to speak what God had done in testimonies, were also supposed to speak forth His promises of what He had planned for them to come. We're supposed to do the same thing. And number 5, just like Nehemiah, we have to help in this birth process. We have to all join together and build together. This is, for all of us, an amazing time. He's calling us to give birth to the big things of God. It's important right now for all of us to keep our focus on God, on His goodness, on His love, and on the promises that He's set into motion. Because the enemy has already started his agenda to stop God's promises. So we need to use the battle plan that the Lord has given us. Again, I just told you that. It's to declare, to call forth, to share, and to help bring all of this into the birthing process. Together, that's all of us. We can birth God's big for His kingdom here, through this region, through this nation, and across the world, to bring honor to Him, to bring glory to Him, and glory throughout the world. What an amazing opportunity we have. So now I'm going to turn the meeting over to our leadership, and they're going to fill you in with some of the specific elements of the vision, answer questions, get your input, because we really value you and we want to hear what you have to say, and even dreams and visions you've had. Give suggestions, because we're all a part of this birth process with God's plan. And Michael and I want to thank you again for all your love, your prayers, your friendship and support. Daily, we thank God for you, and that He's put you into our lives, and that we get to walk this amazing God adventure together. We love you all. Blessings and hugs. Bye-bye.